Well, it's Thursday, March 19th, 2020, and welcome back to our third broadcast of PK's PSA, coming to you once again from the office of Pastor Ken here at New Creation Lutheran Church, Ottawa, Ohio. Now, this might be your first time tuning in, and if so, you're going to have to unlearn a thing or two, because PK's PSA stands for Pastor Ken's Pastoral Service Announcement. To varying degrees, our lives these days have been nothing short of discombobulated, and much of what has been normal has gone topsy-turvy thanks to all things related to COVID-19 or coronavirus, a public health threat that we're all living through. The first half of our brief time together will be dedicated to bringing some helpful information to you about some aspect of our life together, even as we live life measurably apart from one another. And the second half of our show, if you will, has more interest in hopefulness, though we trust it's also helpful. Part 2 we're calling And Now a Word from Our Scriptures, a humble yet thoughtful devotional moment with yours truly. During each half, we trust you won't take any offense to the periodic attempts to inject just a little levity to maybe lighten up your spirits and brighten your day. To be sure, these days can sometimes feel as if we're walking around in a stupor, or we're best friends with Charlie Brown's pal Pigpen, who always seems to be having this cloud of dust hovering over him. If we can clean some of that mess up, we'll all be better, and who knows, maybe we might even be able to breathe a little bit easier too. So, I don't know about you. Let's get to it. It's time for the third installment of PSA, Pastoral Service Announcement. I was about to enter into high school back in 1969, believe it or not. I wasn't exactly an audiophile, but I was acquainted with this English rock band from London. They were so popular, they ended up selling over 1 million records worldwide. Pretty impressive, I'd say. Growing up, I had one of their more popular vinyl discs. Actually, it was a double album, a rock opera, entitled Tommy. Maybe you remember the band too. They were called The Who. I hadn't listened to The Who for years, until the last few weeks. The Who, of whom I speak, is actually not the British rock band of the 60s, but The Who of the World Health Organization. They're that vital branch of the United Nations operating out of Geneva, Switzerland. They don't make music, but what they have to say is reverberating around the world while they work on this coronavirus and on health systems, communicable diseases, preparedness, response, and more. So, rock on. WHO, World Health Organization. And now, how about a word from our scriptures? With no offense to any of the ladies out there, there's a section in the Bible, in the Old Testament, dedicated to what's sometimes known as the period of the patriarchs. You can read all about them in Genesis chapter 12 to 50, if you have the time. It covers a whole bunch of stories about 4 generations, beginning from Abraham and Sarah all the way to Joseph and his brothers. It spans quite a few years, and actually quite a bit of real estate too. The geography of it all traverses from Ur in Babylon all the way to Egypt. Back then, I suppose you could call it global. Some might have thought all of those families, they'd be one happy family, especially with God at the helm of his chosen people. But nope, wasn't the case. Not always, anyways. There were lots of tension, broken relationships, animosity, sibling rivalry, parental favoritism, husbands and wives not getting along, unfair treatment. Heck, there was even some lying and deception. Wasn't a pretty picture. There was even a story of this young man named Joseph and how his older brothers resented him so much they tried to do him in, throwing him down into an empty well. Then one day some foreign traders came into town and the brothers decided to implement Plan B. They sold their brother Joseph as a slave for 20 pieces of silver. And eventually Joseph found himself in prison, way over in the land of Egypt. I suppose you could say that sin spreads. It's a global phenomenon, a most contagious infection requiring intervention from the highest authority. Who, no pun intended, might that be? Well, the Who isn't a rock band or even any important branch of the United Nations. The Who that makes all the difference for us comes in the name of Jesus Christ. You can read in Philippians 2:6, and it reminds us, as well as that which follows, He's the one, quote, who, though he was in the form of God, humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. There's no better who than that. So, in closing, remember again, fear not tomorrow. God's already there. Until next time, thanks for listening, and God bless.